Thank you all for coming out today in honor of the individuals who have been tortured by the ACI. My name is Brandon Robinson, campaign manager of the Stop Torture I Coalition. And today you will hear from myself, and I will read a letter. Brian Rodunas, which was the last the last individual who passed away from the torturous conditions of solitary confinement's letter to his family. You will also hear from the sponsors of the Reform Solitary Confinement Act, Senator Acosta and Representative Felix. From there, we will march inside and speak with other legislators about the passing of the Reform Solitary Confinement Act. In the last 90 days, the Department of Corrections has neglected to do their basic job, and that is to make sure everyone under their custody and care is safe from themselves and others. We do not have the death penalty here in Rhode Island, so the majority of individuals who enter the ACI are supposed to walk out the door the same way they walked inside. Why is it that the DOC doesn't take the cries of help from individuals who suffer from mental health serious? How much blood do they need on their hands until they reform solitary confinement? Why do they downplay the amount of time they are holding people in solitary confinement? If the legislators do not believe us about sensory deprivation and its effects, then who will believe us? You know what? If they don't believe us, then believe Brian Rodunas' last words and his last letters to his family. I'm going to read Brian's last letter that he sent to his family. And it doesn't sound like someone who is about to no longer be with us. The letter was written March 15th, 2023, 10 p.m., and it says, "Hi, Mom. It's your favorite son. I hope you're doing good. I got in trouble, so I'm in SEG," which is SEG is solitary confinement or restrictive housing at the ACI. He said, "I get out of SEG on April 18th. Don't worry, I'm fine. I'm still coming home next year, and that's my promise to you. 2024 will be my year. Nothing I do can stop that. One more year, that's it. Take care of yourself. I love you to the moon and back. I should be able to call you on April 2nd and 3rd for only 10 minutes every 30 days that you're in solitary confinement. They give you a 10-minute call. I love you, Ma. Your loving son, Brian DePina Rodunas. By the way, when I get out, I'm taking this last name out and replacing it with Piers. Never liked it." Unlike what they tell you at the DOC, Brian was not in there for only 10 days. He was in there longer than 10 days. And after being inside, they gave him, he caught an additional infraction where they gave him more time. Upon receiving that time, he told them, "I can't do it no more. I can't take it. I'm not going to make it. I need help." They ignored him. They put him back in the cell. They left him with all the things that everybody else would have in general population. Things that an individual in his state of mind and condition should not have access to. And I'm not going into details, but he used these things to do what he did. And now the ACI has blood on their hands. Now, the only thing we can do to make sure this doesn't happen to somebody else's son, daughter, husband, father, mother, niece, nephew, is to pass the Reform Solitary Confinement Act. Now I'm going to let you hear from the sponsors of this bill, Senator Acosta, then Representative Felix.
Thank you. I didn't want to be here today. I spent the last few days thinking about what I would say, some of the ways in which having to have a demonstration like this could be interpreted. There's a part of this that feels like we're pimping death in order to talk about a legislative agenda. I don't like that. You hear more of the details, and there's a part of me that wonders whether that even matters. 3 people are dead. The modern state is recognized as the entity that holds a monopoly over the legitimate use of violence. And for the last few years, you've seen the erosion of that legitimacy. Not just with these deaths, not just with the folks who have been organizing behind me, but by the courts themselves. The state is cannibalizing itself and claiming that there's a problem with the way that this institution operates. I want to apologize to the families of the 3 people who we've lost. I want to apologize directly, not just because of what has happened, but because of what I would argue is my own cowardice. I have spoken to none of them out of self-preservation. I don't think that sitting down and listening to other people's pain is healthy for me. I haven't even processed my own shit. And yet we have to sit down and listen to other people's. And it's not blood on the ACI's hand. It's blood on our hand. This is our state. This is a publicly funded, managed, and operated institution. I didn't want to speak. I was worried about speaking. I couldn't sleep last night. I wonder how in a society where we're surrounded by suffering and desperation, we can sleep on a day-to-day basis. How is it that I, at home, in my room, in my bed, can sleep knowing that we have what amounts to state-sanctioned torture in our own state, and we're doing nothing about it? We started the conversation, we've stopped it, we've edited the proposal, we've come back, we've pushed back and forth and back and forth. 3 more people are dead, and then what happens? Well, I hope that this haunts the fucking dreams of 113 people tonight. Every single member of the General Assembly. Add 2 to 115, so it's our Lieutenant Governor and our Governor too, and maybe add the Director of Corrections too. Because how do you sleep? How do you sleep comfortably at home with people dying? And you could have done something about it. I'm not an abolitionist necessarily. I'm educating myself on the process, but it does beg the question of how could you differently spend hundreds of thousands of dollars per year, per person, that didn't lead to the extreme of taking your own life? Because that's what we're doing. We spend hundreds of thousands of state dollars to torture people, to lead them to take their own life. And so I hope every single person at home, every single person behind me, and every single person in this building is haunted by the deaths until they do something about it. Thank you.
Hi, everyone. I apologize. I'm recovering from surgery. So it's really hard to be able to project my voice. But it was extremely important for me to be here and stand in solidarity with many of the folks here in the Rodenas family in expressing the anger I feel for the fact that we have done nothing as an assembly to be able to take care about this problem. Since 1840, we've been talking about the need to reform the use of solitary confinement. We are here today talking about the same thing after 3 deaths. This is unconscionable, and we can't continue this way. We need to do more for our community members. We need to do more for each other. And each and every person needs to call their state senator, needs to call their representative, the governor's office, everyone. Because this cannot continue in this state. Acosta said it, Senator Acosta said it well. Way better than I could have ever said it. This is state-sanctioned torture, and we need to do more to ensure it does not happen again. But we cannot stop the conversations. We need to continue on. This cannot continue in our state. So, thank you.
Thank you, everyone. We thank you for coming out and honoring the families and the individuals who lost their lives. We're going to go in and we're going to speak to these legislators to push them to bring this bill to the floor and pass the Reform Solitary Confinement Act. My condolences to the family and the loved ones. Thank you, everyone. Yes, any questions?
Just explain what the bill would do.
Oh, okay, awesome. Yes.
Short term.
No problem. The Reform Solitary Confinement Act does three basic things that we're going to have on the flyers that you're going to be seeing going around. One is it protects the vulnerable population. The vulnerable population is individuals who suffer from mental health disabilities and physical disabilities, individuals who are 22 years or younger or 60 years or older, and pregnant women. The second thing it does is and those individuals would only be put in administrative confinement, which is 20 hours in a cell, 4 hours out of the cell. The second thing it does is it maximizes the time an individual will be held in solitary confinement to 15 days, with 22 hours in a cell, 2 hours out of a cell. Which doesn't mean that they can't receive more time than 15 days. They can receive 45 days as Brian had, which that would mean 15 days of that would be 22 hours in the cell, 2 hours out of the cell. The other 30 days would be administrative confinement, 20 hours in the cell, 4 hours out of the cell. Last but not least, the bill provides oversight to hold the correctional officers accountable and make sure they're doing their job. It also provides the legal right for individuals to go to court and advocate for themselves if they feel their rights are being violated. Those are the three main basic things that would protect individuals from being tortured in solitary confinement. Any other questions? Pat?
The United Nations Mandela rules prohibit solitary confinement terms of more than 15 days and more than 22 hours. If Rhode Island was a separate nation, which sometimes we act as if we are, we would be considered a torture state. Do you think that the legislature, in their constant retread of this legislation, fully understands that?
I believe some understand it. I believe some choose to ignore it. I believe that everybody needs to open up their eyes and see it for what it is. If you have individuals starving at night, being treated less than you would treat your dog at home or your cat at home, they would be being tortured, which would make us a torture state. And that's not something that I want to be a part of. Do you?
No.